Hi you guys, it's Amanda with Healthy House on the Block here with another Healthy House tip this week on creating an environment in your home that supports your health and wellness, that is free of toxins, and as free from chemicals as possible. This week I'm super excited. We're going to be talking about the entryway. Now, I think that the entryway is a really good place to have a buffer between the outside world and what you allow into your home. A lot of times we can't control some of the things that come into our homes, things that come in on purses, backpacks, shoes, diaper bags, our kids, our pets, anything, and we just allow that to come into our house and into our living space. But if we have a set designated area in our home that can act as like a little buffer, we can keep some of those things in that area only, or we can wipe things off in this entryway area, then we prevent some of these things from coming into our home. Now, we might just kind of think that we're talking about dirt and dust and bacteria and viruses, but there are actually toxins that come in on the bottom of our shoes, toxins that come in on our pets, toxins that come in on kids' backpacks, on our diaper bags that we put on the floor, on our purses that we set on a counter somewhere. And it's really important to keep these things out of our home because they do affect our health and wellness. Now, I'm going to kind of give you a little caveat, and I want to tell you that not all germs and bacteria and viruses are bad. We have to have some of those things in our home, and so I'm not talking about a sterile environment by any means, but I am talking about an environment that is free of pesticides and herbicides. These are big things that come in off our shoes, and I'm linking a couple studies in this week's blog post, and I'll mention them in this video, that talk about how easy it is to get these things in our home and how difficult it can be to get them out. These are things that don't break down easily. We don't have a lot of UV light in our homes, and so a lot of times they stick around for a long time. So that's one of the big things we want to keep out. And then there's a couple other main components that we want to keep out of the house that are more than just bacteria and viruses. This week I'm also going to share with you some ways to make your entryway functional, whether you have just a little entryway like in an older home where you kind of walk right into the living room, or you have a mud room, maybe you use a part of your garage. I have ideas for you guys. And I'm also going to be linking, I'm really excited about this, some toxin-free furniture that you can put in your entry. So we're talking about benches, console tables. I found some really great Green Guard certified options that will bring very few toxins into your home. They're healthy pieces, and they're really affordable. So let's go through this week's slides. They are modeled after this week's blog post. So if you're someone who likes to read the blog post, I would encourage you to head on over. If you're looking for links, I would encourage you to also take a look at the blog post because I have everything linked for you, from furniture to additional ideas. You can follow the link that's in this video description, and otherwise we'll get started with this week's video.
All right, you guys. So one of the best philosophies that I adopted in creating a healthy house is this idea that I'm a gatekeeper of my home, and I have control over what comes in to my house. So using practical and functional entryway ideas to create a space that prevents the introduction of many toxins to my space is just one of the ways that I continue to practice this philosophy at home. The entryway in my home isn't large. It works to kind of house all the elements that we use to get ready for the day when we're leaving the house. I like to keep them all in one spot because I am all about a functional, pretty space, and the entry really is no exception to this idea. So once we're in the mode of kind of like getting out the door, I can tell you that few things are more frustrating than like having to traipse back through the house and find something that we left behind. I will also tell you that this happens on a regular basis. The entryway is a really good buffer, though, between our living space and the dirt, toxins, pesticides, and bacteria that can enter your home and my home on shoes, and the objects like diaper bags, purses, backpacks. So not only can you create a healthy space that's free from many toxins in general, you can actually create a space that prevents additional bacteria, viruses, and toxic dust from entering your main living area. I think the trick is to incorporate entryway ideas that are easy to keep up with, that make your space like super functional. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this week's video and post. So first, let's talk about these toxins that we're bringing inside of our home. Herbicides and pesticides. These are going to get kind of, gross because we're talking about gross things we're bringing into our house. But I think, if you have kids, we have a crawler. I think it really kind of resonates with, I don't want to put my babies on the floor on top of what we're bringing in. So a study referenced by the EPA cited that herbicides are being tracked into homes on residents' shoes for up to a week after an application. What I think is really alarming is that the amount of the exposure is actually more than the exposure from residues on non-organic fruits and veggies. So pesticides are designed to stay on surfaces for long periods of time. They're designed so that they don't break down. Because of this, they tend to stay on a surface in our home for a very long time because we have very little UV light to break them down. And what we know is that pesticide exposure is linked to poor development in children, increased risk of cancer, chronic dermal irritation and rashes, and also immune system deficiencies. So all of these studies are going to be linked in this week's blog post for you, kind of proving this point that we want to keep this out of our home. Second is asphalt dust. So Baylor University they did a study that linked families living near asphalt pavement sealed with coal tar to an elevated risk of cancer. The polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, so we'll just say PAHs, from the sealant were found settling in house dust inside living spaces. They found that the risk for exposure was greatest in children who are younger than 6 years old because they're ingesting more of this toxin because of their hand-to-mouth habits that we don't have as adults. Another thing we're going to look at is bacteria and viruses. So, a largely referenced study by a University of Arizona professor and microbiologist, Dr. Charles Gerba, shows just how much bacteria we track into our homes by wearing our shoes inside. What he did is he took a brand new pair of shoes, wore it for 2 weeks, and he found that 440,000 units of bacteria had attached themselves to the shoes. Most of the time, like about 90% of the time, the bacteria actually transferred itself onto clean, smooth flooring surfaces like tile, laminate, or carpet. Not to mention, like if you have carpet, it's gonna take even less to get that bacteria onto the carpet because it's a rough surface. I also want to just quickly talk about how our home should not be a sterile environment. So some bacteria is incredibly good for our microbiome and our own immune system. That being said, I wouldn't voluntarily bring bacteria in and place my kids on top of it. So there has to be a balance. The same study also showed that viruses actually thrive more on the soles of shoes than like on a toilet seat. And again, while viruses in general, we try to avoid, keeping a sterile environment can also be detrimental to our overall health and wellness. So let's take a look at how we can create a healthier living space. So personally, for our home, we have a pretty firm no shoe policy. There's a few exceptions. Grandparents, older visitors who have a hard time getting their shoes off. Maybe it's a quick run inside to grab a forgotten item. But overall, we keep our shoes at the entryway. Especially as our kids were little and crawling around, we did our best to keep shoes in one place and away from little hands and free from our living spaces because of the pesticides and bacteria that I kind of mentioned before. We also have a spot to hang up all of our purses, backpacks, anything that's been on the bus, on the floor at school, we want to keep out of our living areas. It's a great way to kind of create that buffer. I don't want my kids' backpacks sitting, on their beds with all of the things that they can track in. And then finally, you can actually create a space in your garage if you don't have a great entry space. I think that's a very good option, especially for states that maybe aren't as cold as ours, where we like to come in and keep our boots and our coats warm. If you have a warmer climate, you can definitely use part of your garage as a buffer zone. So let's talk about some of the things that I have linked in this week's blog post. I'm so excited. I was able to find some healthy furniture and must-haves for you guys. So let's take a look at some green guard benches. So I have all 4 of these linked in this week's blog post. I think having a spot to sit and take your shoes off and then put them on again is perfect for kind of encouraging a no shoe policy. It's great for kids and for older visitors that you might have at your house. I also am linking tables. So I found these really affordable tables that you can put in your entryway. I like the ones that have a little spot underneath. That's where we keep like purses and backpacks, a basket for hats in the winter. The entryway, idea like getting a table is so that you won't end up with things on your kitchen counter, which, is gross if we're putting our purse down somewhere and then we're going to put it on our kitchen counter and then cook food on it. I mean, we try to wipe our counter off all the time, but we have kids. It doesn't always happen. So, next, I'm going to share with you some natural basket options. We use baskets like this. These are all natural materials, and we use them for like hats. We use them in the summer. We'll put shoes in a basket so that they're off the ground. We put sunscreen in a basket so that we remember to put that on when we're leaving the house in the summer. You can use them for anything. Each kid can have their own. You can do one that's, just everybody's mittens or something like that. I'm also sharing with you some organic rugs. I think it's important to have a rug when you walk in because that will catch a lot of bacteria and dirt, toxins. And then what you'll do is you can vacuum them, but then also if you sun them, put them out in the sun, it'll kill bacteria and viruses on those rugs. And then some hooks and trays. So I like to keep trays out. I think it encourages the no shoe policy. Hooks so that we can hang all our stuff in the entryway and not bring it into the house. And then let's take a look at some healthy habits for your space. So first, let's talk about vacuuming. This is going to be really important because we want to get rid of a lot of the toxins that are being tracked in. So you can use a vacuum with a HEPA filter. Get in the habit of doing your entryway and rugs like on a regular basis. We use a stick vacuum that actually stays in the entryway, and we do it at least every other day. It helps keep the rest of the house really clean too. Also get in the habit of cleaning that space, wipe things down. It can kind of become a spot that's like a catch-all where you have like mail and packages and groceries. It's where everything enters your home. So make sure that you're cleaning it, dusting it, and decluttering it on a regular basis to keep it free from coming into your house. If you have a spot, I like to have like a wipe down station. So sometimes it's easier to just wipe down the bottom of purses, book bags, diaper bags that have been sitting on the ground, especially like if we go to, somewhere where it sits on the ground for a long time or it got sticky or something. A cleaning station is a perfect way to remember to wipe down the items that come in. And we don't do it all the time, but just every now and then it does need a little wipe down. So a little bottle of spray, some paper towels, something like that. Have a bag station. So again, we like to use hooks. We also use the bottom of a table, like a console table, and it just keeps everything isolated to one spot in the entryway. I don't want things on my kitchen counter. I don't want things in my kid's bed. So we have hooks on the wall for backpacks, and then the shelf for diaper bags and purses. And then in-season shoes only. This has helped us a lot. We live in Minnesota. We have boots. We have sandals. We have everything in between. And each kid has, all of their weather-appropriate shoes. So we only keep out the current shoes. We put everything else away. It helps things to stay less cluttered. And then it kind of helps keep things in one spot. So we have room in one basket where they can put all of their shoes so that the shoes aren't getting tracked around the house or laying out and, getting in the way or getting into little kids' mouths or something like that.
You guys, thank you so much for hanging around with me this week and taking a look at ways to make your entryway very functional yet healthy. If you have any questions at all, I would encourage you to either leave a comment here or send me an email. I would also love if you would subscribe to my channel. I do these videos every week. We cover a different toxin, a different area of your house, a different topic on creating a healthy home environment. So I will be here again next week with a healthy house tip on creating the perfect indoor environment for you and your family. See you then.